Queen Victoria, who reigned from 1837 to 1901, was one of the most iconic monarchs in British history. Her reign, lasting over 6 decades, spanned an era of profound social, political, and technological change. The period of her reign, known as the Victorian era, saw Britain become the most powerful empire the world had ever known, with territories spanning continents and vast economic and cultural influence. Victoria herself became the symbolic figurehead of this empire, and her reign witnessed dramatic transformations in industry, governance, and society. Victoria's reign saw the consolidation of British constitutional monarchy, the expansion of the British Empire, the rise of industrialization, and significant societal shifts. She became a symbol of propriety and virtue, shaping not only the image of the monarchy, but also the cultural attitudes of the time. Victoria was born on May 24, 1819, at Kensington Palace in London, the daughter of Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, the 4th son of King George III, and Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Her birth was not initially viewed as historically significant, as her father was not expected to ascend to the throne. However, following a series of unfortunate deaths within the royal family, Victoria became the heir presumptive to the British throne. Victoria's early life was marked by the strict upbringing imposed by her mother, the Duchess of Kent, and her governess, Baroness Letzen. Her mother was protective of Victoria and kept her isolated from the royal court and public life, which shaped Victoria into a reserved and serious child. This strict upbringing, however, was to stand her in good stead when she ascended the throne at the age of 18, upon the death of her uncle, King William IV, on June 20, 1837. Victoria's accession was relatively smooth, but she faced immediate challenges. As a young, untested monarch, she was required to learn the intricacies of governance and diplomacy quickly. Her early advisors, particularly Prime Minister Lord Melbourne, played an important role in guiding her through the complexities of her reign. Although her role was largely symbolic at the time, Victoria's personal influence over her government grew significantly as she matured into her role. One of the most defining aspects of Victoria's reign was her marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, whom she married in 1840. The match was both a love match and a politically strategic one, as it brought together the royal houses of Britain and Germany. Prince Albert, an intelligent and capable man, became Victoria's most trusted advisor and confidant throughout their marriage. The couple had 9 children together, and their marriage was characterized by mutual affection, intellectual companionship, and shared responsibilities. Prince Albert played a crucial role in the development of the British monarchy, influencing Victoria's decisions and guiding her in matters of state. His involvement in public affairs, including his support for reforms and his efforts to modernize the monarchy, helped solidify the monarchy's position in an increasingly democratic society. However, Victoria's reliance on Albert also led to tensions, particularly after his untimely death in 1861. His death profoundly affected Victoria, leading her into a deep mourning period that lasted for much of the remainder of her life. Victoria's family life, particularly her relationship with her children, also played a significant role in shaping her image. As a mother, she was deeply involved in the lives of her children, and her own experiences as a mother and wife became central to the image of the Victorian ideal. The Queen's family became a model for the public, representing stability, respectability, and moral virtue. Under Queen Victoria, Britain reached the height of its imperial power, and Victoria became the figurehead of the British Empire. In 1876, Victoria was formally declared Empress of India, cementing her symbolic role as the monarch of a vast global empire. The British Empire during her reign was a sprawling entity, with territories across Africa, Asia, the Americas, and the Pacific. The empire's expansion during the Victorian period was driven by a combination of economic interests, missionary zeal, and the notion of the civilizing mission to spread British culture, values, and Christianity around the world. The British Empire's expansion during Victoria's reign was not without controversy. The British involvement in the Opium Wars with China, the colonization of India, the scramble for Africa, and the exploitation of colonies for resources all became increasingly questioned as ideas of imperialism began to be scrutinized in the late 19th century. Despite this, Victoria's reign saw the empire at its zenith, and she was regarded as a symbol of British strength and unity. Victoria's role as the Empress of India was largely ceremonial, but it reflected the global reach of the British monarchy. Her regular correspondence with colonial governors and her involvement in ceremonial duties helped solidify the monarchy's place at the center of imperial rule. She took a keen interest in the affairs of her overseas territories, often writing letters to her colonial administrators and expressing concern for the welfare of her subjects abroad. Victoria's reign was characterized by a gradual shift from absolute monarchy to constitutional monarchy. By the time she ascended to the throne, the power of the British monarchy had been significantly diminished, and political power lay largely in the hands of Parliament. The monarch's role had become more ceremonial, with the Prime Minister and Cabinet holding the reins of government. Throughout her reign, Victoria worked with numerous prime ministers, some of whom had a lasting impact on the political landscape. These included Lord Melbourne, Sir Robert Peel, Lord Palmerston, and William Gladstone. While Victoria's role in politics was largely symbolic, her influence was nonetheless significant. She took a deep personal interest in government affairs and was known to express her opinions on important issues. Her relationships with her prime ministers, particularly her close rapport with Lord Melbourne, were crucial to her ability to navigate the complexities of British politics. One of the most significant political events during her reign was the rise of the Labour Party in the late 19th century, as well as the expansion of the franchise, which led to a more representative democracy. The suffrage movement, which sought to extend voting rights to women, gained traction in the later years of Victoria's reign, although she was personally opposed to extending the vote to women. Victoria's reign saw the gradual evolution of British democracy, culminating in the Representation of the People Act of 1918, which extended voting rights to women over the age of 30, just after her death. Victoria's political views were generally conservative, and she preferred stability and gradual reform over radical change. However, her reign saw significant social and political reforms, including the abolition of slavery in the British Empire, the expansion of education, and improvements in public health. The Victorian era was a period of profound change, particularly due to industrialization and urbanization. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century, gained momentum during Victoria's reign and brought about significant changes in British society. The development of railways, factories, and new technologies transformed the economy and society. This period saw the growth of a powerful industrial working class, as well as significant social inequalities. The expansion of cities, the rise of factory labor, and the exploitation of workers, particularly women and children, led to widespread social unrest. The government responded with a series of reforms aimed at addressing the conditions of the working class. Key pieces of legislation included the Factory Acts, which regulated working hours and conditions, and the Public Health Acts, which aimed to improve sanitation in rapidly growing urban areas. The growth of trade unions and the push for workers' rights also began to take shape during Victoria's reign, setting the stage for later political movements and social changes. The Victorian era was also marked by significant advancements in science, technology, and culture. The period saw the rise of prominent figures such as Charles Darwin, whose theory of evolution challenged traditional views of creation, and Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who revolutionized transportation with his designs for railways and steam. Ships. The arts flourished during Victoria's reign, with literary figures such as Charles Dickens, the Bronte sisters, and Thomas Hardy providing a window into the social issues of the time. Victoria's death on January 22, 1901, marked the end of the Victorian era and the beginning of the 20th century. She was succeeded by her son, King Edward VII, whose reign marked the transition from the Victorian age to the Edwardian era. Queen Victoria's legacy as the Empress of India and the figurehead of the British Empire remained central to the monarchy's identity for years after her death. Her image as a symbol of stability, moral integrity, and empire continues to influence how she is remembered today.